Thousands of travelers are still stuck in Atlanta after a massive power outage shut down the world's busiest airport yesterday. Power was knocked out for nearly 11 hours after an electrical fire at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, but the power came back on just before midnight. More than 1,100 flights were canceled and more than 400 flights are canceled already today. The outage stranded about 30,000 passengers, some of whom say they were stuck on the tarmac for at least 7 hours with no food or water. Our Kris Van Cleave is at Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, where officials are still evaluating the cause.
Cheers of joy late Sunday night at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport when the lights finally came back on.
Well, it was great when the lights came on. Yeah, that was exciting.
That was great. Blackout in Atlanta.
But for much of the day, this is what the inside of the nation's busiest airport looked like. Thousands of passengers stranded inside as the airport ground to a standstill.
We were literally carrying old people down the escalators and up escalators and carrying wheelchairs. And my heart was like racing because I'm scared for these people's lives.
Once we walked down the escalator, which was a nightmare, then we had to go through the tunnels that were pitch black. It's scary. That was a nightmare.
Hundreds more travelers were stuck inside airplanes waiting for a gate.
We sat on the tarmac for 6 hours. I have my 5-month-old with me. We're trying to get to Fort Myers, but all the flights have been canceled.
No power, no light.
Georgia Power believes switchgear failed, sparking an underground fire that took out backup systems in substations powering the airport. Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed.
But I want to be very clear. We do have a redundant system, but it was impacted by the intensity of the fire.
With well over 1,000 flights canceled, the power outage hit Delta the hardest. Atlanta is its main hub. But continued issues Monday in Atlanta could mean problems at airports across the country.
So as a result, you have this terrible mess with airplanes not where they should be, crews not where they should be, and passengers not where they should be.
Kris Van Cleave joins us now from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Clearly the power's back on, but boy, it looks busy behind you. What's it like at the airport now?
There are a lot of long lines, a little bit of chaos, certainly as things were getting started there. But these are folks trying to check in for their flights, get their bags checked. The security line has at least started to clear out a little bit as we've gotten through the real peak of the morning. But, you know, you've got 275,000 people typically come through this airport on your average day. Add to that another 30,000 who were stranded here at the airport and many more who had their flights affected yesterday, all trying to get out. It was definitely a very busy morning and going to be a busy day here in Atlanta.
Kris, let's talk about the ripple effect. This is a Delta hub. It's also known as one of the busiest airports in the entire world. How is this going to affect air travel around the world today?
Well, so you saw a lot of international Delta flights that were canceled yesterday, so the plane never left Atlanta, which means it can't fly back from Amsterdam today. So you'll see that effect internationally, particularly for Delta, because Delta is about 75% of the traffic through this airport. Delta and Southwest are the two largest carriers, so they're going to see the largest impact. United, American, some of the smaller carriers, you know, really, unless you were flying to or from Atlanta, that's not going to affect their systems. But the big question is, can you restart and can things go smoothly? Do the 400 or so flights that have been canceled so far stay at 400, or do we see that creep up as the airlines try to restart and keep going? And that's a big test. Delta's had some real challenges recovering from issues in Atlanta, and they've said they've been trying to fix that problem. We'll see how well they've done today.
I think the other big question is, how could something like this happen? We know there was an electrical fire,
Yep.
but I think everyone, when they heard this, thought, isn't there a backup system? Now, that was also affected by the fire. What more do we know about why this happened?
So Georgia Power says they believe that this outage may have been caused by a fire that was sparked when a piece of switchgear failed in an underground facility. That then sparked a fire, which spread to circuit cables and switching equipment for the backup system. So one obvious question is, why is the redundant system close enough to the primary system that they could both be impacted by the same fire? But when the fire happened, that then also brought down substations around the airport and the lights went out. So I think a big question people here in Atlanta are going to have, and flyers are going to have, is how do you not have a redundant system that can survive one incident?
Yeah.
You know, it's bad enough when one thing takes down your primary, but it shouldn't take down the secondary as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Kris, before we let you go, level of frustration with the passengers that you've spoken with already today. Where would you rank it?
I think we've seen a mix. We've seen some very frustrated flyers and some people that just looked very tired and very spent, having had a very long day yesterday into today. Sort of when Sunday has morphed into Monday, it's not a great place to be as a traveler. But things are at least moving today, and that seems to be keeping people's spirits up.
Well, Kris, you haven't had much sleep, and you look kind of tired out there, and you're not even traveling. So we thank you for being there for us this morning, Kris. Thanks.
Sure thing.